Zay in the area. Welcome to the NerdVerse. Stranger Things is about to come to an end. The final episode is coming, and with it, the promise of all the answers. But there's a problem. Most people still haven't understood who the true villain of this story really is. And to leave no doubt, today I'm going to explain who Vecna truly is. When we look at Vecna today, the image that comes to mind is that of a monster, a deformed creature, trapped in the Upside Down, responsible for some of the most disturbing scenes in Stranger Things. But that image is incomplete, because Vecna doesn't begin as a villain. He begins as a child. And more than that, he begins as a victim. Before we continue, if you enjoy deeper analyses that go beyond the obvious and truly break down the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps this kind of content continue to exist. This series never told this story in full. It only showed fragments, broken memories, isolated scenes, images out of context that led many people to believe that Henry Creel was simply born with powers, as if he were a mistake of nature, but that idea is wrong. There's a much deeper, much darker origin. And when you understand that origin, everything in Stranger Things changes meaning. One of the most important points in this story is hidden in a specific memory. Henry as a child, inside a mini, facing an unknown man wearing a white lab coat and protecting a briefcase with his own life. That scene is not there by accident. It is possibly the single most important moment in the entire mythology of the series. The Henry we see there is not the same one from season 4. He doesn't have powers yet, he hasn't been possessed yet. He is just a curious boy, wearing a scout uniform, exploring his surroundings with binoculars, until he ends up entering a place he never should have. Inside the cave, he finds this mysterious man, a wounded, paranoid scientist who points a gun at the child, believing he has been discovered. The shot hits the boy's hand. In panic, believing he is about to die, Henry reacts. He attacks the man and kills him with a rock. Not out of cruelty, but out of pure desperation. Survival? And if this story has already made you see Vecna differently, leave a comment below with what you think. I really read the comments, and it helps strengthen the discussion. Then comes the moment the series deliberately cuts away from. Henry pulls the briefcase toward himself and begins to open it. The answer to what's inside that briefcase is not fully explicit in the series, but it does exist in the expanded Stranger Things universe, especially in the play The First Shadow, which serves as an official prologue to the story, and everything points to the same conclusion. Inside the briefcase was Dr. Brenner's project to access Dimension X, the Abyss, and, more importantly, particles of the Mind Flayer extracted from the blood of Brenner's father. To understand this, we need to go even further back in time. Long before Hawkins, long before 11. The true origin of this story begins during World War II. On October 28, 1943, the United States Navy conducted a secret experiment aboard the USS Eldridge. Officially, this experiment never existed, but it became known in conspiracy theories as the Philadelphia Experiment. The idea was to use electromagnetic fields to make the ship invisible to enemy radar. In the Stranger Things universe, this experiment didn't just fail, it opened a door. The ship disappeared, and when it returned, it did not come back whole. Crew members died, went insane, vanished, or were found fused to the hull. Only one man survived in minimally stable condition, and that man carried something different in his blood, something that no longer fully belonged to this world. That survivor was Martin Brenner's father, and if you know someone who enjoys Stranger Things theories and deeper analyses like this, share this video with them. It really helps the content reach people who will genuinely enjoy it. This detail changes everything. Brenner doesn't become obsessed with portals and other dimensions out of nowhere. He grows up living with a father physically and psychologically marked by something no one could explain. And Brenner decides he won't accept vague answers. He wants to understand what happened to that ship. He wants to go back there. Years later, now a scientist, he leads an ultra-secret project attempting to recreate the conditions of the 1943 experiment and reopen a portal to that unknown dimension. Later called Dimension X, the problem is that a Soviet spy infiltrates the project, steals part of the research, and flees. Wounded, he ends up hiding inside a cave. That is exactly the man Henry encounters. Inside the briefcase were particles of the Mind Flayer, and the wound on Henry's hand is not a minor detail. It is the point of contact The particles enter his body through that injury. This is the moment Henry is possessed for the first time. This is where everything truly begins. Henry was not born with powers, he was infected. And that completely changes how we read the character. The evil growing inside him is not natural. It is implanted, external, conscious. Years later, the Creel family moves to Hawkins, trying to start over. But the Henry who arrives there is no longer an ordinary child. He feels too much. He sees too much. He hears thoughts. He absorbs emotions as if they were his own, and that slowly begins to erode his mind. At school, Henry forms a strong bond with Patty, a sensitive girl involved with theater. Patty sees Henry for who he truly is, a wounded boy trying to survive inside his own mind. She becomes his emotional anchor. Meanwhile, strange things begin to happen in Hawkins. Animals are found dead. Radio signals suffer interference. Everything points toward the Creel house. Trying to do something good, Henry uses his powers to help Patty, but he still has no control. And once again, the Mind Flayer takes over. A man is attacked. He survives, but is left blind. And when he draws the creature that attacked him, there is no doubt it is the Mind Flayer. That's when Brenner officially enters Henry's life. Tests, isolation, emotional manipulation. The same pattern he would repeat years later with 11. But Henry is not like the other subjects. He feels too much, he loves, and that prevents him from becoming the perfect weapon. When Henry discovers that his own mother plans to send him back to the laboratory, fear, rejection, and abandonment open the door for the entity inside him to take full control. He kills his mother and his sister. The father is blamed. Henry disappears. Years later, what remains of that boy is shaped by the laboratory, by Dimension X, and by the constant influence of the Mind Flayer. The boy fractures. Vecna is born, and here is the most important point of all. Vecna was never the true commander. He was always connected to the Mind Flayer. The real question was never whether Vecna controls the Mind Flayer, but whether he merely believes he does. This explains everything, including the biggest mistake in the character's plan at the end of the series. They believe that destroying Vecna solves everything, but Vecna is not the origin. He is only the first. The true villain of Stranger Things has always been there, watching, waiting, and if this interpretation changed the way you see the series, leave a like, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, because there is still so much more to uncover in this universe, and understanding this completely changes how this story ends.